I woke up to a village wrapped in fear. The sun barely pierced the morning mist over Obollo. I could hear the whispers of my neighbors before the Igwe even spoke. Prince Uche was gravely ill. Every home in Obollo felt the shadow of despair. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think, only felt the weight of what was to come. And then, the priestess appeared at the palace square. Her eyes held a truth that no one wanted to hear. "The egg of life," she said, "is the only hope." The Igwe's voice boomed across the village square. "Who among you will risk the evil forest?" he demanded. People gasped and stepped back. I watched the maidens whisper among themselves, fear in their eyes but courage in their stance. Rita, tall and unshakable, stepped forward. She looked straight at the Igwe. "I will lead them," she said. Her voice carried over the murmurs. The other maidens, Chika, Chioma, Nkechi, Ebere, Nkem, Adeze, fell in line behind her. Hope stirred, fragile as it was. Priestess Ifeoma handed each maiden a talisman. "These will protect you from what you cannot see," she warned. I felt a chill as I watched the metallic glint of the charms in the weak sunlight. The air smelled of incense and damp earth. Every maiden clutched her talisman like it was her last lifeline. Even Nkem, usually resolute, had a trembling hand. We were leaving behind the safety of home. Every step would be a gamble with death. The priestess's eyes lingered on the prince. "He waits," she said. The words sank into my chest like stones. I couldn't stop thinking about Prince Uche. I had seen him laugh in the village square just days ago. Now he lay pale, motionless, a shadow of himself. Oluchi, the queen, wept quietly, gripping her son's hand. I wanted to run to him, to do something. But my place was with the maidens, on the edge of a forest that devoured hope. I glanced at Rita again. Her jaw was set. Her eyes were steel. I swallowed hard, wishing I could transfer her courage into my own chest. The first step was about to be taken. The evil forest waited, dark and silent. We approached its edge, hearing only the crunch of dry leaves underfoot. The village fell behind us like a fading dream. Rita led with confidence, but I noticed how even she hesitated at the tree line. Shadows seemed to breathe between the trunks. A crow cawed sharply, breaking the silence. Chika whispered, "It's as if the forest knows we're coming." Her words sent shivers down my spine. Every instinct screamed that danger was near. And yet, there was no turning back. The deeper we went, the heavier the air became. It smelled of wet earth and decay. Branches scraped our faces and clothes. Chioma reached for a flower and froze. Its petals bled a dark red that seemed impossible. Nkechi grabbed her arm. "This isn't natural," she whispered. I wanted to turn back, to flee the suffocating dread. But Rita moved forward without looking back. Her courage was infectious, but even I felt it waver under the forest's gaze. The forest was alive. Hours passed. I lost track of time. The forest shifted around us, paths twisting, trees moving ever so slightly. Eber stumbled over a root. I caught her before she fell. Her eyes were wide, almost pleading. We pressed on, relying on Priestess Ifeoma's talismans and whispers in our minds. Every sound was a warning. A twig snapped. A shadow flickered. My heart jumped. I realized the forest wanted to break us, one by one. And perhaps it would. Night came suddenly. The forest swallowed the last light. We huddled together, talismans glowing faintly. I felt the weight of every fallen leaf, an unseen presence. Chika murmured a prayer, and the forest seemed to pause for a heartbeat. But then came the whispers. Soft, mocking, promising fears we had never dared speak. Rita placed a hand on each maiden's shoulder. "We survived together," she said. Her voice was firm. A lifeline. I clung to it like a rope over a cliff. I never imagined this journey would be mine. If you're new here, welcome. And if you've been with us before, thank you for joining again. Tell me where you're watching from. This channel tells stories that hit home, that grip you in the chest. And If you want to walk the forest with us, lightly hit subscribe. We aren't turning back. Dawn barely reached the forest floor. Mist hung low, curling around the twisted roots and knotted branches. We moved silently, every snap of a twig echoing like a gunshot in my chest. Rita led, her eyes scanning shadows for movement. I felt Nkem close behind me, her presence steadying my nerves. Chioma's absence weighed on me, the loss already a ghost in our hearts. Ebere kept murmuring soft encouragements to Nkechi. The forest seemed aware of our grief, twisting paths and hiding landmarks. It was testing us, measuring how far we'd go, and I felt it. Fear mixed with determination, a cocktail that burned in my veins. A sudden rustling stopped us mid-step. From the darkness, shapes emerged, creatures half seen, half imagined. Rita raised her hand, signaling silence. I could feel my heartbeat in my throat. One creature leapt, almost touching Chica's twin sister. I reminded myself she was gone. We scattered, instincts sharper than thought. Nkem drew a blade given by the priestess. It glimmered faintly, a silver promise against the unknown. We regrouped, breaths short, eyes wide. The forest didn't forgive hesitation, and now it was hunting us. Hours bled into each other. Paths repeated themselves, or perhaps the forest looped. I couldn't tell if we were advancing or circling. Nkechi's voice trembled as she whispered, "Are we lost?" Rita did not answer immediately. Her silence carried weight, authority, and the tension of leadership. Adeze scanned the trees for patterns, noting twisted vines and unnatural formations. Her cleverness became our compass, our map. The forest seemed to grow darker the more we struggled. Even the talisman's faint glow flickered in warning. And still, we pushed forward. Suddenly, a deep voice rolled through the trees. It was not human, yet distinctly aware of us. "Who dares enter my domain?" it growled. Branches shook violently, leaves falling like rain. We huddled instinctively. Rita stepped forward, her voice unwavering. "We come for life," she said. The voice chuckled, a hollow, echoing sound. It mocked our courage, but did not strike immediately. Instead, it tested us, probing our fear and resolve. I realized in that moment that courage alone would not be enough. We needed faith and unity to survive. A trap sprung without warning. Vines shot from the ground, wrapping around Chioma's memory, a phantom pain in my chest. Nkem slashed at the vines, cutting them before anyone could be injured. I helped Ebere steady herself. The forest seemed alive with intent, testing our reactions. Each step became an equation of risk and survival. Adeze's ingenuity found weak points in the forest's traps. We learned quickly that hesitation equaled death. Our pace quickened, yet each sound and movement carried the weight of anxiety. Even silence became threatening. By midday, exhaustion was a physical weight. I felt every bruise, every cut, every throb in my lungs. Ebere leaned heavily on me, whispers of encouragement in her soft voice. Rita's eyes never faltered, scanning every shadow. The forest had no mercy, but we had each other. Nkechi faltered, nearly falling into a shallow ravine. Rita grabbed her arm mid-fall. "Keep moving," she said. I realized then the forest had forced us to depend entirely on one another. No lone hero would survive here. We discovered a small stream, cold and clear. Water glinted like liquid crystal through the canopy shadows. We knelt, drank, and washed grime from our faces. Adeze examined the flow, whispering, "This may lead us deeper toward the egg." Hope, fragile and sharp, sparked within us. Yet the forest did not relent. A sudden screech from above sent us diving for cover. Branches shook violently, and something large moved just out of sight. Fear returned with double force, but so did determination. We had survived so far. This was the first real victory. Night fell again, and shadows deepened. We gathered in a small clearing, talismans casting faint light. I felt the weight of Chioma and Adeze's absence. silent in my chest. Rita checked each maiden, confirming injuries and resolve. We whispered strategies, knowing the forest would test us in new ways by morning. Eberi's voice trembled as she recited a prayer. I repeated it silently, trying to summon strength. Every heartbeat was amplified by fear and hope intertwined. We could not falter. Failure meant the prince's death. The forest seemed to listen, waiting for the first sign of weakness. I can feel the forest pressing closer every second. If you've been following, take a minute and subscribe. You won't want to miss what comes next. Every choice we make, every step forward, matters. The egg of life waits, but so does danger, unimaginable. We are still together, but I cannot promise how long that will last. The forest shifted again, unnaturally quiet this time. I felt my pulse in my ears, each beat echoing like a drum. Enkem's grip on her blade was steady, but I could see her jaw tighten with every shadow. Rita paused, listening. "Something is ahead," she whispered. The forest floor changed beneath our feet, roots forming unnatural patterns, dark liquid pooling in patches. Ibera's hand clutched mine. I felt her fear as sharply as my own. We knew instinctively this was no ordinary path. Every step forward could be our last. Suddenly, a shriek tore through the trees. I dove instinctively, pulling Nkechi with me. Branches lashed our faces, tearing at skin and fabric. From the shadows, figures emerged, grotesque and warped, half human, half shadow. Rita stepped forward, her talisman glowing brighter. The creatures hesitated, then charged. We fought with every ounce of strength and will. Blades flashed, charms pulsed, and screams cut the air. For a moment, I believed we might not survive this encounter. But then Rita's voice rang out, clear and commanding. Together. The creatures dissipated as suddenly as they appeared. We panted, sweat and blood streaking our faces. Nkechi leaned against a tree, shaking. Eberi whispered a prayer, tears running down her cheeks. I felt the weight of every fallen sister Chioma, a daze, and it sharpened my resolve. Rita's hand rested briefly on my shoulder, grounding me. "This is what it means to endure," she said. Her voice was both a comfort and a command. We pressed on, deeper into the forest's heart. Each step forward was an act of defiance. We reached a river, dark and sluggish, reflecting no light. Adeze, though gone, had left instructions in our minds from prior guidance. We built a raft from fallen branches, each movement careful and precise. The river carried whispers that sounded like voices from the past. Eberi shivered, gripping the raft tightly. Nekem took the lead, paddling with strength and determination. Rita watched every movement, eyes scanning both banks for hidden dangers. The forest seemed alive, judging every stroke we made. I realized survival was no longer about courage alone, it was about unity and trust. The river narrowed into rapids. Water surged violently, slamming the raft against jagged rocks. I held on, heart hammering, fear threatening to break me. Nekem shouted directions, slicing at branches and guiding us through the turbulence. Rita's hand clamped onto the edge of the raft, steadying us. For a heartbeat, I thought we would be thrown into the roaring current. Then, with a final push, we cleared the rapids. Exhausted, soaked, and trembling, we collapsed on the riverbank. The forest was silent again, but I knew it was only waiting. We huddled near a dying campfire, shivering. Nkechi tended minor injuries, her hands trembling yet precise. I checked our supplies nearly gone. The talismans glimmered faintly in the dark, their magic flickering. Rita stared into the forest, silent and watchful. "Tomorrow," she said, "we reach the heart. The egg is close." The words were both hopeful and terrifying. I lay back against a tree, feeling every ache, every fear, every loss. I wondered how many of us would survive. And yet, I knew we had no choice but to continue. Night deepened, the forest whispering all around. I thought of the prince, lying pale in the palace, unaware of the danger we faced. The weight of responsibility pressed down, nearly crushing me. Rita murmured a chant of protection over each maiden. I repeated it silently, feeling it strengthen my resolve. Every loss sharpened the urgency of our mission. We were the last hope for Obollo. Failure was not an option. I closed my eyes for a moment, bracing myself for whatever awaited at dawn. We're closer than ever, but danger waits at every step. If you're invested in this journey, take a minute and subscribe. You won't want to miss what comes next. The egg of life is near, but the forest does not forgive mistakes. Stay with us. Every heartbeat, every breath counts. Dawn broke, but the forest swallowed the light. I opened my eyes to twisted branches clawing at the sky. Nkem was already awake, checking the talismans. Rita stood at the edge of the clearing, silent, scanning the shadows. We had survived the rapids, but the forest had new tests waiting. The air was thick, damp, and smelled faintly of iron. I felt the weight of every fallen sister pressing on me. Every heartbeat was a countdown. Every step carried the risk of losing another. Suddenly, the ground trembled beneath our feet. A massive shape emerged from the trees. Its skin seemed made of bark and shadow, eyes burning like embers. It roared, and the forest itself seemed to echo. Rita stepped forward without hesitation. I felt my fear spike, adrenaline turning it into sharp focus. The creature lunged, but we scattered, blades flashing, talismans pulsing with protective light. Nkem met the creature head-on, striking precisely where the talisman's power was strongest. I realized we had entered the forest's heart, where danger was no longer random, it was intentional. The fight was brutal, every swing and parry a test of endurance. Branches broke around us, leaves raining like knives. I ducked, barely avoiding a strike that would have ended me. Rita barked directions, moving with fluid precision. Ebery cried out, narrowly evading a swipe. The creature was relentless, its strength unnatural. I had never felt such raw power and hatred in the forest before. Yet, we held together, our unity forming an invisible shield against despair. For the first time, I understood what Priestess Ifeoma meant by spiritual strength. After what felt like hours, the creature finally faltered. Nkem delivered the final strike, forcing it back into the shadows. We collapsed, gasping for air, bodies trembling. Rita checked each of us, injuries minor but hearts heavy. I felt pride mingled with exhaustion. We had survived another trial, but I knew it would not be the last. The forest seemed to hum around us, as if acknowledging our persistence. We had proven we could endure its wrath. But endurance alone would not guarantee the egg of life. We pressed on, following the river's twists deeper into the forest. The air was cooler, thick with mist that hid sudden drops and roots. Adese's strategies, remembered in whispers, guided us. Every step required calculation, precision, and trust. Chika's voice echoed in my mind, her caution, her insight. I realized that even in absence, our fallen sisters influenced every decision. Nkechi stumbled, and I caught her, whispering encouragement. We were moving not just for survival, but for the prince, for Obollo, and for the memories of those we lost. Hope burned, small but unyielding. A sudden flash of light blinded me for a second. We turned toward it and saw the egg of life, suspended on a pedestal of roots and vines. Its glow was soft, yet it illuminated the surrounding darkness like a beacon. Rita's eyes widened, a mixture of awe and caution. The forest grew still, watching us approach. Every instinct screamed that, claiming it would not be simple. We stepped closer, talismans pulsing in response. I felt reverence and fear collide inside me. This was the moment we had risked everything for. Suddenly, illusions erupted around us. Shadows formed faces, twisting memories and fears into shapes. I saw Chioma and Adese, reaching for us with eyes pleading. I screamed internally, refusing to be tricked. Rita's voice cut through the chaos. "Focus. This is not real." We closed our eyes briefly, grounding ourselves with talismans. The forest fought us, using our grief and doubt as weapons. Nkem stood firm, her resolve like steel. We edged closer to the egg, ignoring the haunting illusions. We're at the forest's heart, the egg of life within reach. Every step has been survival, every breath a gamble. If you've followed our journey, subscribe now and stay connected. What happens next will decide the fate of Obollo. We are so close, and yet the greatest danger is still ahead. I could feel the egg of life's warmth from a distance. It pulsed gently, almost like a heartbeat, and I imagined it syncing with my own. Rita motioned for us to move slowly, eyes scanning the forest for any sign of danger. Shadows writhed along the edges of the clearing, whispering threats and doubts. Nkem gripped my arm, steadying me. I swallowed fear and focused on the glow. Each step was a prayer, each breath a silent vow. We had come this far. Nothing could stop us now. Even the forest seemed to hold its breath. Suddenly, spectral guardians emerged. They were tall, humanoid, but flickered between solidity and mist. Eyes like embers glowed, and voices echoed in multiple tones at once. Rita stepped forward without hesitation. "We are here for life, for Obollo," she declared. The guardians moved closer, forcing us to our knees in reverence. I felt fear twist with awe. Nkem held the talisman high, its glow flaring like a sun. I realized the guardians were testing not our strength, but our courage and resolve. Our unity would decide if we could take the egg. The guardians attacked in unison, illusions of fire and shadow. I dove instinctively, landing hard on moss-covered ground. Rita parried with her talisman, deflecting a flaming shadow. Nkem's strikes were precise, cutting through illusions without hesitation. I realized the battle was as much mental as physical. Fear became a weapon, grief a trap. I blocked each illusion with a whispered prayer and the steady pulse of my talisman. We moved as one, synchronized, unbreakable despite exhaustion. Finally, the guardians halted, bowing subtly, as if acknowledging our worth. Rita reached the egg first, reverently placing her hands above it. It hummed with power, brightening the forest as if welcoming her courage. I watched Nkem mirror her actions, steadying herself to ensure nothing disrupted the ritual. The forest fell silent, watching, waiting. I felt a surge of energy ripple through the clearing, almost knocking me off my feet. It was fragile, yet overwhelmingly potent. I realized then that life itself was suspended in that moment, resting on our hands and choices. We had crossed the forest, faced every fear, and now held the key to salvation. Obollo's hope was in our grasp. A sudden, violent tremor shook the clearing. Branches snapped, and I felt Rita cry out in pain. She had been wounded, a deep slash across her side. Blood mixed with sweat, but her focus never wavered. She grasped my hand urgently. "Take it," she whispered. I felt the egg transfer its energy through her, fragile yet alive. Nkem guided me, and together we stabilized the egg. Rita sank to her knees, exhausted but smiling faintly. I realized the cost of survival her courage had bought the life we now held. We could not fail now. The journey back was a test of will. Every shadow seemed sharper, every step heavier. I carried the egg with trembling arms. Nkem guided us, strength unwavering. The forest seemed to resist, twisting paths and hiding familiar landmarks. Yet we moved forward, fueled by determination and grief for the sisters lost. Each step felt like walking through centuries of fear. I whispered promises to the fallen, to Chioma and Adeze, vowing their sacrifice was not in vain. The egg pulsed, steady, as if encouraging us onward. At last, Obollo's boundary appeared, light breaking through the dark canopy. The village seemed suspended in anxious silence. Rita collapsed beside the path, exhausted, but her eyes shone with relief. I carried the egg into the village square, greeted by a mixture of awe and fear. The Igwe's face was pale, the queen trembling beside him. Priestess Ifeoma stepped forward, hands raised, ready to perform the sacred ritual. I felt the weight lift slightly, knowing our mission's end was near. The prince's fate now rested on ancient words and sacred touch. The ritual began. Priestess Ifeoma chanted, her voice echoing across the square. The egg pulsed, sending light that danced on every stone and wall. I watched Prince Uche stir, his breathing deepening. Color returned to his cheeks, his eyes fluttering open. The village erupted in a mixture of relief and joy. I felt tears on my face, exhaustion and elation mingling. Rita smiled faintly, acknowledging the price paid and the victory won. We had succeeded. Life had been restored. We returned as survivors. But our sisters' sacrifices remain in every heartbeat of Obollo. If you've followed this journey, subscribe, like, and comment to honor courage, sacrifice, and heroism. Stay connected. There are more stories that test the limits of humanity and hope. The Egg of Life reminds us, even in darkness, unity and courage prevail, and our story continues in every soul it touches.